Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I'm Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. Very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, one of the great parts about doing this podcast is being able to learn about all sorts of different departments and different folks who are doing different types of work in the community, doing different types of work for an extended amount of time. And I'm really glad to welcome Jen Patterson, who is going to talk to us today about opioid abatement. First, Jen, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Brad.
I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Obviously, this is a very serious topic and one that I think that is on a lot of people's minds more so in the last few years, given what the opioid crisis has done, not just for folks locally in the state of Virginia, nationally. There's a lot to unpack here, and I want to do that with you as much as we can today. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's a very serious topic and one that is full of all kinds of different angles and, bits of perspective and things of that nature. Before we get into that, though, let's start here. I always like to give folks a little bit of a background on the person they're hearing from. And I'd like to get a little bit, about yourself and talk a little bit about sort of maybe how it is that you came to be sitting across from me today. So what's your background and how did you, kind of get into this line of work?
Yeah, so my career has been surrounded around doing frontline work for the disadvantaged communities. And so I have a history in mental health and working in community-based services for a pretty significant amount of time. And then worked within an emergency shelter in Richmond City for quite a while. And so in those positions, just really focused on what my service to those communities could be like, and really grew as an ally and as an advocate to be a voice for those communities. Right. And through that frontline work, just really got to know systems a little better. Okay. And so really wanted to focus on macro work and kind of how to play a bigger part in those pictures of how we can help those communities.
Right. Was this something growing up that you just had that empathy in you? You just wanted to help other people. Was this something that you thought you'd get into? How does one end up in that sort of service role? Was it something as a kid that you even thought about?
I had a grandma who was really into giving back with her church and volunteering in her community. And my parents were really young parents, so I spent a lot of time with her growing up. And so it was just really kind of embedded in my person growing up. And so I did a lot of volunteer work, and I studied criminology in school just to really focus on the reasons behind why people do things. Right. And from there, just looked at positions that would really help me give back.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, and obviously the work you're describing is incredibly important because you're talking about a significant portion of our population who, for a variety of different reasons and circumstances, they need that help, that servant's heart, folks like you to help facilitate that support. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of your role here in Chesterfield and the work that you do here?
Yeah. So my position is officially entitled Opioid Abatement Authority Administrator. So Chesterfield is one of very few localities in Virginia who have created this position, which I think is pretty rad. I'm very thankful to be in the position. So I've been here for about a year. My role is to specifically oversee the opioid settlement funds that Chesterfield receives. It's a very convoluted system with lots of different funding options, which is amazing that we have access to all those funds, but also makes it really cumbersome. Yeah. So initially I was hired to oversee a specific project that we have that's funded by opioid settlement funds, but it's really grown to focus on overseeing the appropriate use of the funds, but also really looking at what we have to offer here in Chesterfield. Right. And so we are currently getting ready to ramp up a needs assessment and gap analysis to really look at what substance use services look like here in Chesterfield, where the gaps are, and how we can be strategic about using these funds to fill those gaps. Right.
I want to circle back real quick to something you said in there. You said the settlement. Can you give folks who maybe aren't aware what that actually is? And I understand it's a very involved sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what is that settlement and what does that sort of translate to for everybody in the sort of larger community?
Sure. So Virginia decided to pose a lawsuit against the pharmaceutical companies and distribution companies that produced opioids. They decided to form a lawsuit as a state, as opposed to all the different localities having separate lawsuits, to get a bigger bang for our buck, obviously.
Right.
The OAA, the Opioid Abatement Authority, was created to really oversee the settlement funds that were a result of that.
Right.
And so they distribute the funds within the localities based on multiple different things, but really about the impact of opioids and how it had on their communities. And so Virginia as a state has received about $1 billion over the life of the settlement, which is the money comes in over about 19 years. And so they just ensure that folks are getting the monies that they deserve, the localities are, that they're being distributed appropriately and used for appropriate things.
So what I hear you saying is essentially that there was a large pot of money that was given to the state, and then the state is then dispersing that money to the various localities. And your job is to then take that and make sure that it is sort of being spent appropriately here locally in Chesterfield. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I would additionally say there are funds that come directly to us also that OAA does not oversee. And so over the life of the settlements, it's about $17 million that Chesterfield will receive.
Cool. Now, I want to drill down a little bit into Reigniting Hope. I know this is a campaign that you guys and our office are getting ready to embark on, have kind of already started. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a current blog post on Chesterfield on Point. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what Reigniting Hope really means and why this frame is the one through which we want to share these types of stories and what types of stories we're going to share as we go forward in this?
So a little bit of background. Whenever I started here in Chesterfield, the first, 6 months or so was really about looking into what we have to offer here in Chesterfield in regard to substance use services and kind of getting a lay of the land, as well as our localities next to us, because we know that borders don't matter to our population, and so they're accessing services otherwhere. So in doing so, I was super surprised in a wonderful way about all the services that Chesterfield does offer in regards to substance use. And through doing that and talking to folks and talking to different departments and talking to citizens, really just realized that my experience was a pretty normal experience and that folks don't really know what Chesterfield does and what we have to offer, let alone how to access those services. So that was one part that led into this campaign. And then another piece of it was Chesterfield does a really great job of partnering with other localities to be able to make experiences bigger and has a really good regional approach to things. And so we were meeting with some localities talking about, I think the campaign name was Real People, Real Stories. And so that was a focus on families of youth who had been impacted by substances, whether it was loss or an overdose or, their family was just impacted. And so in participating in those conversations and having a conversation with our substance use committee chair, just really felt like stories about loss and the grief associated with opioid use. And we know that that's prevalent and awful. But oftentimes that doesn't necessarily motivate change.
It doesn't resonate that way. Yeah, gotcha.
with folks who are in active addiction. And so in talking with media services and the substance use team just really wanted to focus on, we have so much to offer here in Chesterfield to help folks find a different pathway. And so really wanting to focus on that hope and recognizing that their lives can be impacted and changed.
Because it makes a lot of sense, right? That the idea that if you approach it from a negative, from that sort of, for lack of a better description, that gloom and doom, there's it leaves not just a different sort of feeling, but it doesn't inspire the same way.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if you think about like any other sort of topic, right? The negative is never going to produce as much as the positive might.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense that you would sort of look at it that way. The types of stories that we want to tell through Reigniting Hope, obviously that positive side of things and the way it ties into the services that are provided or that are available rather. How would you sort of describe what some of these stories might look like? Can you give us an example or two of what of the kinds of stories we're looking to tell as we work through this campaign?
Yeah, so I think when I think about this campaign, I think of it being threefold. So I think of people knowing what we have to offer. So if that's someone who works in the field and provides the services for our citizens in our community, so just talking about the impact of the services and what they've seen and what they've noticed in the community. Telling folks how to access those services.
Right.
So I think it's going to be some media. We're currently working with IST to be able to build a hub of information so that folks don't have to go and search for the information. That is all in one spot.
Right.
And then also stories of hope, which goes along with a reigniting hope.
Yeah.
So whether that's citizens who have been impacted by the services, Chesterfield has an amazing breadth of peers that work within our systems, which just adds to our services. So we have clinical folks, and then we have folks who have lived experiences and have been there, done that, and have come out. And so their stories of working in the field, of experiencing the services and their impact on the citizens.
Yeah. In your mind, why does this Reigniting Hope campaign matter so much, not just to those who are sort of looking for something like this, but also those who just are battling substance use? Why does this thing matter so much?
Yeah, I don't think that substance use impacts individuals. It impacts systems.
Yeah.
And so I think that this campaign can help educate folks who are struggling to be able to say, like, oh, we have a mobile outreach team. If you can't access services on site at the CSB, like, this mobile outreach team will come out to you to provide the services.
Right.
So just recognizing what's out there. I think that it can impact family members and loved ones who say, I don't know how to be of help or support. Not only will it give them the resources, but we're hoping to provide education also to say, like, this is the reality of what somebody is struggling with. These are ways that you can help and support them, because we know that treatment, quote unquote, doesn't always look the same for individuals. And so recognizing that going to quote drug rehab is not everybody's ideal situation.
Right. Yeah.
So educating folks on what different opportunities are for people who are struggling with substances. And then finally also to educate the community. And I think that there, has been progress against the stigma of substance use and ensuring that folks, recognize the impact of language and know, for example, like what harm reduction is and what that can do for the community, and that it's not just, Narcan and saving someone's life with that. So the hope of this campaign is to really be able to impact and educate all.
Yeah. When you were just talking about education a second ago too, and I had this kind of random thought, because it feels like, a lot of times we're like kids in school, right? Your idea is like you meet them where they are. I know for us, when it comes to getting information to the public, one of the reasons we have a podcast, right? One of the reasons we have a blog, we get so many different channels is we're trying to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
In your line of work, meeting people where they are, I can imagine it's extremely difficult because, as you just were sort of describing, right, that connecting with someone in this place because of their perspective is very different than maybe it is for somebody else. What are some of the ways that you guys have found that really resonate in terms of the services you provide? Like, what are some of the services that seem to make the most connections? And like, what kinds of things are we trying to maybe highlight as we're sort of going forward? Are there any, is it basically, is there anything that seems to work better than other pieces? Or is it really just about you got to really cover the whole gamut, right? The whole spectrum, because it really is a spectrum in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we call it a continuum of care, right? So what one person experiences and needs is not what the person standing next to them have experienced and will need in the future. I don't know. I think all services are important, right. Just because of that difference in experience and situations. And, maybe somebody can't go to treatment because they have a small child, and so they can't leave them.
Because those circumstances really matter.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, I do really want to shout out our peers here in Chesterfield. And I think that there's been some huge evidence-based data that's been collected just to talk about the importance of peers in our services to work alongside with those who are educated in the services being provided, just because it's an added benefit to have someone walk alongside you and say hey, I've been here through this. Who knows
what it's like? Yeah.
It's really terrible, and there is beautiful benefits on the other side.
Yeah, there's hope. All right, lastly, Jen, I'll get you out of here on this one. What do you want people to know about this campaign and to sort of take away from this when it comes to substance use and the idea of sort of reigniting hope in people's lives?
So you kind of hit on it last time, and I was like, don't take it from me, Brad. So Lauren, who oversees the mobile outreach, she recently said this, and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. So this is what I'm going to leave you with. Okay. So here in Chesterfield, we are here to support folks and to meet them where they're at, which is what you said, but we don't leave them there.
Oh,
so really recognizing hey, we're going to stand beside you through the rough waters, and we're going to help you be safe and figure out wellness. And then we're going to build that rapport and that relationship to help inspire that hope to get you somewhere that's safer.
Right. It's such a nuanced conversation in a lot of ways, and I'm really glad to, this next year, basically, right, we're going to roll these things out and hopefully make those connections and give you a chance to not just, again, meet people where they are, but not leave them there. That's so great. That's shout out to Lauren for what is easily.
I hope that she's the one who made that up. I don't know if she is.
If she's not, she just got credit for it. So that's great. Well, Jen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and really appreciate you talking to us about a very important topic and something we're going to be pushing out a lot of messaging on here in the future. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia on Word, and on Facebook, you can check out our podcast pages. Search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your programs are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit some feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, and on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98, Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent and Media Services for all they do. My thanks to you for joining us today. So from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts. And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Weekly video segments and newsletters, social media, the latest community news.
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.